I recently just finished the book called The War of Art, and it talks about this aspect of overcoming resistance. Resistance basically being the thing where you want to do some creative endeavor of some sort, and the second you want to do it, you're met with fear that your friends are going to hate you for doing it, fear that you're going to die, fear that you're going to be ostracized, fear that you're going to get hungry and go starving, fear that it's not going to work. And it's ultimately your ego that's keeping you stuck in place, right? Because the ego likes where you currently are, where everything is laid out all nice. And if you do something that has the possibility of taking you out of your current reality, as much as it might not be the one you want to be living, your ego still holds on for dear life. I mean, I think that's why people who are super overweight, when they try to get into the gym, they still can't manage to go to the gym, even though that's the one thing that'll make everything in their life objectively, and yes, objectively, better. It's because their ego is holding on tight to their current reality. And one part of this book that I just finished stood out to me strongly. It reminded me of another book that I had read called Your Drug May Be Your Problem. And it said depression and anxiety are just diseases made up by drug companies to basically sell you a product, a pill that you can take and it resolves your issues. But it also could very much just be resistance. Depression and anxiety is very much just resistance. That you are not realizing that the fact that you have depression, the fact that you have anxiety, it is an indication that you are going in the correct direction. Or perhaps that you need to be doing something about whatever it is you're in. And the book I read, Your Drug May Be Your Problem, talks about how the concept of a chemical imbalance in your brain is virtually impossible to prove, especially based upon a written and visual observation of the psychiatrist's patient. The point to be mentioned here is that I truly believe that the only thing that your medication, whether it's for ADHD, depression and anxiety, or anything else that cures these mental disorders, they're simply just inebriating your brain to the point where your highest calling is blurred, to the point where you no longer have a higher calling. It's completely eliminated by the drugs that you're on, right? And in this book, The Drug May Be Your Problem, it talks about how you're not getting your chemical imbalance fixed by taking these drugs, right? In fact, they're causing chemical imbalances because your brain naturally by nature is going to be balanced. That's why when you come off of these drugs, you have withdrawals because it's your body trying to return you back to normal. And the fact that basically what it's doing is scrambling your fucking brain to the point where you have some sort of haze in front of you that gets rid of the anxiety or depression that you're going through. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 12, as well as depression, as well as anxiety. And I went on a multitude of medications that never did anything until I got in good shape and started actually pursuing my highest calling. More specifically, the thing that really changed my mind was psychedelic drugs. Schedule 1 drugs, they're framed as the devil, probably because the pharmaceutical industries are lobbying the government to make you buy more pills, frankly. And also because anyone who's scared of them has probably never done them. And you see them as though it's something like heroin because it's scheduled alongside it, but also weed is too. And if you've ever smoked weed, you know that it's probably nothing like heroin. I've never done heroin, I don't know. The point that I want to be making right here is the drug you're taking might be your problem. It's not your depression, it's not your anxiety, it's the opaqueness of your vision that is casted upon you based upon these mind-altering drugs that you are taking. Because that's what they are. They're mind-altering drugs. You are intoxicated, Literally, it's poisoning your brain when you take these drugs. That's why you have withdrawals from people who stop taking the meds, and then all of a sudden they go into some sort of remission and a manic episode that can just be brought back on to being like, oh, well, that confirms that the thing I diagnosed you with was true, when in reality you're just withdrawing from pills. I was a psychology major in college. I've read a multitude of books on this stuff. I personally went through this hell of picking every medication for ADHD and anxiety and depression, and none of it got fixed until I just quit taking them and focused on my health, taking care of my body and actually listening to what my soul was wanting of me. Many people, I think they go against themselves consistently in the name of hierarchical belonging and belonging to a tribe. But after you get out of a space of, let's say, high school, your status no longer matters. And then and only then, the only thing that really matters is your ability to express yourself freely, artistically, creatively, for what your purpose was to be put on this earth. And I think that your purpose, the reason why you can't find it, or the reason why you don't get helpful nudges from, we could say, God, your guardian angel, the universe, is because you're intoxicated. You're intoxicated with something, whether it's pornography, persistent scrolling, Zoloft, fucking fluoxetine, Ritalin, Adderall, whatever these other bullshit medications are. Weed, alcohol, I think I might have already said that, porn, junk food. All of these things hijack your highest calling. And it's not just that they hijack your highest calling because sobriety is the way to your highest calling, which is what most people want to convince me of the message that I'm portraying is. No. I could give a fuck if you smoke weed. I could give a fuck if you drink alcohol. I could give a fuck if your brain is scrambled by the meds you're taking. Right? What I'm telling you is there is a reality that you don't understand. There is a reality that you cannot conceptualize of because you're constantly inebriated on these drugs. Your brain is not functioning at its highest level. It's not a moral ego thing. It's not the fact that, oh, well, sobriety is just the way and being healthy and shape is good because I'm better than you, right? Because most people want to look at me and say, oh, well, this guy's in good shape and he's talking about it, so he must just be a cocky, arrogant prick. No, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. I mean, I do. Everyone does. But the message I'm trying to portray is that this is the shit that actually changes your life. It is getting sober and actually seeing the world in front of you for what it is, as your fucking battleground. Not even a battleground, just a place where you can express yourself freely, as a realm that you have been casted into as a spiritual being. These drugs that you take, they always keep you in your flesh, right? Or more like you take them to avoid your flesh, right? Flesh being your ego, flesh being your conscious awareness of what's going on around you, flesh being where you think you are in terms of hierarchical standards. The ego thinks that you can die. The self doesn't think that you can die. The ego is at the forefront of everything. The ego is your conscious awareness watching this video. The ego is what keeps you stuck. The self knows that after we die, it's just our body and our mind and our ego that dies, but not our soul. And if you're always in remission, if you're always recovering from the weekend before, you're always recovering from the night before, your brain is fucking scrambled. It's recovering from the poison you're putting into it. And especially if you're taking a medication daily, it's making you into somebody who you are not. What a disservice you are doing to yourself, right? I was put on... I'm going to give you a story. and it's quite personal to me, and perhaps it can shed some light on things you might have gone through. My mother struggled with a lot of mood issues, so to speak. And because my father was not interested in her moods, he suggested she get on medication. She started taking antidepressants. And my dad afterwards said, well, she's not an asshole anymore, which is something that ultimately you could cure. It's a character flaw if you're rude to the people around you. But she tried to fix it with medicine. And it got to the point where he said, well, at least she's not an asshole anymore. But she's also an entirely different person. And that's scary. We've got 12-year-olds walking around like zombies, kindergartners being put on Adderall because they can't sit still. And you can believe that your psychiatrist wants to help you, but I recently talked to somebody who used to be the head of my university's pharmaceutical department, and he said that they don't even teach. They don't even teach pharmacist majors anything other than how to diagnose and give pills. They don't teach them anything about nutrition, anything about physiology, which is funny because 90% of the serotonin in your brain, right? If you've been on antidepressants, you probably understand SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors. 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut from the food that you eat. And I guarantee you that anyone who's active every day, gets adequate sleep, and eats a healthy diet that supports their gut microbiome and the serotonin in their brain, they won't be depressed. But instead, we live in a culture where people wait until the last moment where a problem is there. People wait until they're 500 pounds overweight to finally fucking do something about it. And then they're like, oh, I've got to take Ozempic. I better get some fat loss surgery. Just cut it off. Like that's how it works. Nobody is going to save you. In fact, most people are probably going to inhibit you. Especially if the solutions to your problems come so easily. Right? You're watching TV and you see a commercial for Ozempic and your fat ass is like, oh my God, well, that's just what I need. Fat loss without trying. They're selling you a product, G. They don't give a fuck about you. So you can take the easy way out like you always have. You can take the anxiety med instead of learning how to deal with your problems on your own like a fucking human. Or your ADHD, learning how to fucking focus. Putting your phone in a different room, not scrolling and watching porn half the fucking day, jacking off to God knows what. And eliminate your vices to be able to have the gift of focus. Because the only thing that's wrong with you is your dopamine's just fucked. ADHD is real, but guess what, dude? I can focus. ADHD is also strongly affected by the food you eat. Dyes, artificial dyes, sugars, high-fat foods, high-inflammatory foods. It pains me because my life was lived in a daze for so long of anti-anxiety, antidepressants. Just because the people around me thought I had something wrong with me. Like being a unique individual is a bad thing. Like being a unique individual is not the reason we were put on this planet, to express our God-given gifts and fully allow them to flourish. so that by the time we're on our deathbed, we can look back and say, well, I did what I was supposed to do. There's a lot of corrupt bullshit in this country. The news, followed by advertisements that propagandize you into thinking that a Wendy's burger is just what you need, followed by Ozempic ads telling you that if you want to lose weight, just inject yourself with some bullshit that's hardly been tested on anyone, followed by more news while you just sit back fucking consume it like a retard. Fuck are we doing, man? It pains me to see wasted potential. Hi, Grandma. I'm making a video. I love my grandparents. But yeah, I mean, even then, I've consistently gone against authority my entire life. Consistently gone against what people told me to do. Consistently gone against what my mother told me. Consistently gone against what the school system told me. And my life is so much better because I just followed my soul's conviction. I've helped way more people because I followed my soul's conviction. I have a life with purpose because I followed my soul's conviction. I have a foundation to stand on because I followed my soul's conviction. And I couldn't have done any of that if I just allowed myself to be completely inebriated by the drugs I would have been on. I wouldn't have been able to have done that had I not taken these Schedule 1 drugs that completely changed my life. Showing me that sobriety isn't just the way because it's good for you, right? Because we all know subconsciously, like, you shouldn't do drugs, you should be healthy. What they don't tell you and what they leave out of that conversation, whether it's, pride or ego, is the fact that beyond these vices that you overcome is an entire realm of consciousness you can't even conceptualize of. It's like zooming out of your own life and being like, holy shit, I didn't even realize that for what it was. Because your brain is finally functioning at its maximum capacity because you're not fucking drugging yourself on something. Right? And so with this video, I encourage you to, of course, not quit your meds cold turkey, because that's precisely when you start having manic episodes, and then they're like, I knew he had bipolar disorder, and then they put you on more. Watch out for that, because they will do that. They have done it. But wean off of them. Take them every 2 days. Start getting into the habit of eating a little healthier. Going to the grocery store, not buying junk food. Because the stuff that comes easy is the stuff that's destroying your life. That doesn't mean that every day has to be a struggle, because it doesn't have to be. But the stuff that you are struggling with is probably the stuff you need to combat head on. Stare at it blankly and do something about it. Because these vices aren't just bad because I think my way of life is better than yours, like so many people who watch these videos think I'm trying to portray the message of. And I guess that's a mistake on my messaging. It's the fact that after you overcome these vices, you get to live. You get to live. Not act out of fear. Not chase the next high. You get to live. You get to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you have control over your urges. And the more you gain control over yourself through eliminating these vices, the more you believe in yourself to do something that's great. The more you have the belief in yourself, the conviction in your soul that you can bring some value into this world, have some messaging that'll... God fucking damn, those crows are annoying. I love Mother Nature. I tried to hit it with a rock, but I couldn't. But yeah, brother. It pains me to see wasted potential. And there are stuff that I'm sure is helpful for some people, but these substances were never, well, I don't want to say never intended to be used long term, because they 100% were. There's a reason why the pharmaceutical industry runs this entire fucking country, right? It's because they, at any chance they can get, they make you go on meds. So I don't blame you for being on them. But I strongly encourage you to not quit them cold turkey. I mean, take them every 2 days. And also, I wouldn't recommend telling many people about it either, because people love to think you have problems, especially when you're a direct reflection of their insecurities, you know? People love to say that you have something wrong with you when your image to them is a reflection of what they're not. People love to say that that's a problem with you and not with them. But steadily experiment with this stuff. You know? Steadily eat a little bit better. Right? Get a good night's rest. Spend a day with your Instagram app deleted and your social media deleted. And just sit back and realize. Lean into that. I can't describe it. Lean into that. It's indescribable. Lean into life. The more of these vices you break free from, the more of these drugs you abstain from, and the more you consume the stuff that was put on this earth to fuel you and not harm you, right? Whole foods, stuff that grows from the ground, the more you'll start to realize this mask that was put over your world for what it is. And once you see a glimpse of that, you never want to go back. Because you realize that life is so much more than chasing hoes, chasing drugs, chasing anything. Right? Because anyone who drinks persistently is just avoiding what they actually need to be working on. I don't think you need your medication. I don't. Because we all have pretty much the same hardware, right? And even with whatever bullshit you had, trauma from your childhood, you could learn to manage it soberly. And it's not only virtuous to do that, but it's required. You were put on this earth to overcome the bullshit that you had to deal with coming out of the womb. And you were put on this earth to expel the greatness that is within you. And when you never can detect the greatness that's within you, because your mind is constantly altered by these mind-altering drugs that you're put on in the name of helping you, right? the closer you get to death and the less your full potential will be realized. There's so many cases of people getting cancer and then being like, holy shit, what the fuck was I thinking, right? And that shit happened to me when I was younger. It wasn't cancer, but it was a near-death experience. This game of status is fucking dumb, right? We're put on this earth to be creative. And yet, in the name of status and belonging, you're destroying the one thing that makes you creative. Your mind. With porn, scrolling, drugs, alcohol, Zoloft, Xanax, fucking oxys, fluoxetine, Adderall XR. All this bullshit. And many people, I think, they go into careers that they didn't really want to go into, wondering why their life sucks. When they never had a sober moment in their life to sit down and be like, what do I want from it? And they end up 40 working an office job, and they're like, well, at least I got a degree. At least I got this nice car that the bank owns, so people can think I'm cool, even though no one gives a fuck. And then they just drift off into the aether. Drifting gets them, and they're done for good. No purpose, just to be somebody's bitch, you know? At least that's how I perceive it. What do I know? I'm 20. I probably know a lot more than most, though, I'd say. I mean, I also don't know shit, but I've read a lot of books, at the very least. So yeah, I recommend you read The War of Art, Outwitting the Devil. Those two books are good. They really kind of open your eyes on this facade that the world is. And also The Matrix. I'd say watch that movie, but not from an Andrew Tate perspective, just from a blank state, and trying to really actually understand what message it's trying to portray. And yeah, get in shape, get in the gym, sober up. Then and only then will your true purpose be revealed. And the damn shame about it is most people are never even sober long enough to realize what they're missing out on. It's a goddamn shame. So yeah. Sobriety not because you think you should. Sobriety because you know you should. Sobriety because you know that with sobriety comes purpose. Sobriety not because everyone else says so, or because I'm saying so. Sobriety because you know that your highest calling comes on the other side of that resistance that's telling you not to skip out this weekend on drinking with your boys. Because it's your ego trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you in the same reality that you're in. But if you never do stuff to leave the current reality that you're in, through overcoming the resistance that comes to you when you think, oh, I'm going to get in the gym, and then all these red lights start flashing, even though you know objectively, that it would make your life way better. You got to push through that shit. It's an indication that this is the thing that will change your life. Whatever it is. It's a nice bush right here. Anyways, boys. Subscribe for more if you want more videos like this where I'm just chilling, just rattling it off. Leave a comment about what you think, about your experience with pharmaceuticals. Because, maybe I'm completely full of shit. Probably not. I've done a lot more learning. I've learned a lot more about this shit than most people have. So most people don't even know what the fuck they're being fed. They just trust people because they're doctors. Which, if you think back to, it was one of the experiments in psychology. They kind of proved that literally anyone will just follow what someone in a lab coat says, even at going as far as killing another person, like shocking them to death just because a person in a lab coat says so. It's important to be aware of those biases and to realize that although these doctors and pharmaceuticals or pharmacists went to school for however many years, they might not even know that the drug that they're giving you is fucking your entire life up, because all you needed to do was just eat a healthier diet, and 90% of your serotonin would have been balanced chemically. So, fuck America, bro. It's a great country, but it's really hard if you're stupid. So, and I've got more to learn, of course, but that's why I read. That's why I read so often. Because the knowledge that you gain gives you control. No longer are you operating out of subconscious practices, right? Things controlling you without you being aware that they're controlling you. And until you make the unconscious conscious, you will call it fate. I think that's a Carl Jung quote. So, yeah. Part of making that unconscious conscious is not being fucking inebriated and high as shit on whatever drug some guy in a lab coat decided to give you that's being fucking paid for by the U.S. government, that's being paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. Right? A lot of corrupt shit, man. I promise you they don't have it out for you. I promise you they don't give a fuck. Promise. They might think they're doing the right thing, but they're fucking marionettes, bro, in the background of the pharmaceutical industry. And that's the truth. Like, you can look it up. Who lobbies the government? Food industry, pharmaceutical industry, a bunch of other industries, oil and gas industry. And then we act surprised when everyone's medicated and fat as shit. It's like, gee, it's been right in front of your face this whole time. You were just so fucked up on whatever it is you were fucked up on, you didn't even realize it was going on. I don't know. These videos get to the point where I just ramble at the end, but wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. Please, for the sake of yourself, I don't give a fuck if you listen to me at all, but it would be in your best interest to listen to me and get sober. Not because I said so, not because it's virtuous, but because for you to fulfill your true potential and even know and understand what your true potential might even be, it requires sobriety in thoughts and in actions. Godspeed.